Hey guys, Off the Mic Sports Network here, another edition of Off the Top Rope. One thing I have not touched on, but now that I think it feels like a good time to bring this up, is we just passed the 3 year mark that Naomi and Sasha Banks walked out of WWE. And look at where these two women are now. And depending on your perception of doing well, one could be better than the other. They could both be doing very well. I'm going to take it this route because Naomi just won Money in the Bank. Um, and if you look at Naomi's career and where she's been situated for most of it, um, a lot of people think that, she has been underutilized, underachieved through no fault of her own because, like, she's just not been put in the positions to be successful. And so, her and Sasha Banks, when they were the women's tag team champions, I think it was the Boss and Glow connection or the Boss and Glow, um, they both walked out, put their belts on the desk of Vince McMahon. This was 2 months before Vince McMahon, was forced out of power, and Naomi was gone for a bit. Went to TNA, did a really good job over there, won the Knockouts Championship, and then came back to WWE at the start of last year as part of the Royal Rumble. Um, and she's been really featured prominently as part of SmackDown, where she's been in a bunch of women's title matches. She obviously got this massive heel turn in this massive program with Jade Cargill. Now she's Miss Money in the Bank, which there's only been a handful of Miss Money in the Banks in the history of WWE. They started doing the women's Money in the Bank match back in 2017, so it's a big deal for Naomi to be where she is because when you guys think about what happened 3 years ago, everybody's like, well, Sasha Banks is clearly the better wrestler of the two, clearly the bigger star. Now you look at where these two are, both heading into positions to potentially be a women's champion. And I, given just in terms of character and level of interest, I think Naomi, based off of what's happened, is in a much better spot from a public perception state than Mercedes Mone is because. And some people will just laugh at me, say, Mike, she's going to get the biggest women's match of all time. Guys, listen, I don't give a shit about that, okay? Like, I know her and Tony Storm are going to have one of the great women's matches of all time. Like, I expect that from Mercedes Mone. But what has Mercedes Mone done since she showed up a year ago in AEW other than win a bunch of championships? She's now holding 5 championships. She went to a tent in fucking Austria and won a championship that I've never heard of. And some of you schmucks in the chat have just consistently been telling me, well, yeah, she's going to grow that she's going to grow that company and she's going to give it a bigger platform. Exactly how is she going to do that? It's just another accessory for her. This is all a game, and this is all ego for her. Naomi, on the other hand, left because she felt she was being underutilized. She went to another place, got better, came back, and now she is in the best position that she has ever been in for the first time in her 16-year career. First time in her 16-year career. You could see how, if you guys were watching the post show with Big E was getting emotional. Everybody in this community understands how hard Naomi has worked from the first season, from that first women's season of NXT, that goofy season that nobody really remembers where, I think it was Caitlyn who won it. You had AJ Lee and there was just a bunch of bullshit going on that when it was a reality show. Naomi's had, she was a funkadactyl hanging around with Brodus Clay. Remember that? Tyrus. So that's a whole level of different problematic. She goes through Total Divas and all this other shit. And nobody ever thought of Naomi as being an accomplished, becoming an accomplished wrestler. And she's really done a lot of things well to elevate herself. And then she got kind of typecasted with that Glow character. And what she's been able to do in the last, I'd say 6 months or so is completely reinvent herself. Like this caution tape thing and just channeling all of the, real perception of what we've seen or what, the perception is of Naomi being underutilized, underappreciated and all that. That's what this is. And to me, that's infinitely more interesting than what the CEO is for Mercedes Mone. So these two women walked out of WWE 3 years ago. And yeah, Mercedes has got all the championships and all the accolades and all this, but I think Naomi has gotten infinitely better off of that situation. She's come back. She's had really good matches. She's been a consistent, prominent character on SmackDown. And then this whole angle that pretty much came out of thin air. We don't really know what happened with Jade Cargill. Whatever it was, it has turned into a fascinating storyline that's going to play out over the summer because Naomi's going to be women's champion before. I'm willing to put it out here on this show. I've said it before. Naomi's going to be women's champion before the end of the year. They're going to wait, but they're not going to wait as long as Tiffany Stratton. They're not going to wait. They're not going to wait until the start of 2026 to crown Naomi women's champion. And let's not forget, Naomi's already been a women's champion. But let's be real, that was largely a forgettable run because she won it the first time. She got hurt. She won it at WrestleMania in Orlando. The glow thing was really cool, and we all think that she's just a lot of energy, but there was really no substance or character to that. This is an actual character. And what she's been doing with Jade, what she's been doing with Bianca has been really, really interesting. Give me one memorable segment that Mercedes Mone has done in AEW. One memorable segment that actually, enhanced talent or, at least, showed a little bit of character development. There's been none. There's been none since she got there. And on some level, I do understand that, hey, this is almost like a lifetime achievement type deal for her. A lot of, wrestlers who get underappreciated, they go be the bigger fish in a smaller pond. That's what AEW is to Mercedes. And I'm sorry to all you AEW schmucks. She's going to leave. She's going to leave at some point. Okay. This is one thing that I haven't mentioned on here. She's going to leave. She is going to come back to WWE. When there is a pathway for her to get back to WWE, she will do it. Like this is not going to be a long-term thing, okay? But what you're seeing transpire is a lot of ego, and she's gotten a lot of the accolades because hey, I understand it. She is one of the standard bearers and one of the biggest reasons why women's wrestling is where it's at. I'm not dismissing that. But when you talk about would I rather see a woman walking around with 5 championships and think that that's accomplishing something, or would I rather see a woman on the run of her career with a really, really fascinating character now holding the Money in the Bank briefcase with a chance to win the women's championship again and supersede her last women's championship run, which was 8 years ago? Naomi is in a much better spot than Mercedes Mone because she is doing this at the highest level of professional wrestling. Say what you want about AEW versus WWE. We can get into that tribal war, but when these two women left, a lot of people thought Naomi was getting screwed over because she was following Mercedes, and Mercedes, who had already walked out once, and leading her down at that. And look at what Naomi has done. And Mercedes has done a lot of good for herself. She's gone to Japan. She's put on banger matches. But again, once we get past this whole situation with Toni Storm, and especially with the way that they've built it, listen, everything that they've done and they've put into Naomi in the last, 6 months or so. And, I'd rather see infinitely better character and television than seeing somebody walk around with the championship and have a bunch of accessories and be a belt collector. That's not a character. And at the end of the day, yes, wrestling and, it is sports and sports entertainment and the titles have to mean something. But if you don't have any substance or character to it, then what the fuck are we doing? Again, Mercedes Mone has done absolutely, positively nothing for the TBS title. Nothing. She'll pass Jade Cargill's record, and it'll be fine and dandy, and nobody will give a shit. This match with Toni Storm is going to be one of the great women's wrestling matches of all time. I'm not dismissing that. But after we get past that, is it really going to matter? When Naomi wins the women's championship, however it happens, it's going to be a memorable moment. It really is. Because it's going to be the crowning of an underappreciated talent who finally gets their career moment in a career year for them. And this feels really satisfying and really rewarding for a lot of people who have followed Naomi since 2008, 2009, when she was in FCW and when she was grinding it to get up through, and when she was just literally coming off the street as a former Orlando Magic cheerleader. Like, the rise to the top for Naomi really like Naomi showed up in WWE before Sasha Banks did. Like that's how crazy this is. Like, it's really we've seen Naomi for basically the last 15 or so years. It's really unbelievable the growth that's happened. And like I said, I've always appreciated Sasha for her wrestling ability, Mercedes for her wrestling ability. But one thing that I have completely illustrated on this show and on this segment for weeks, months, close to a year, is that she has gotten massively exposed to how important it is to have a development of a character. And she has not changed anything really other than her name. The CEO is basically the same thing as the boss, Sasha Banks. Naomi literally was the glow for 8 years until she turned on Jade Cargill, pushed her on that car, and then was revealed as the person who committed the crime, I guess. And look at where she is now. She's got a new gimmick, she's got a new vibe to her, and everybody was universally thrilled when she won that Money in the Bank match because it was a long time coming. So just take that for what it is. I know the Sasha Mercedes stands are going to get at me in the comments because they think that I hate her. I don't. I just don't like the way that she's really conducted herself because she's basically lied to everybody. And everybody who's trying to cover up and basically say that she's done more for women's wrestling, that's bullshit. This AEW women's division has I'm not going to say it has as much talent as WWE, but they've got comparable levels of talent. None of those people are over. You want to know why? Because Mercedes beaten them all. She's beaten them all. It's done nothing. Naomi has actually gone through the ringer and actually developed the story to now reach this point as women's Money in the Bank. So when she wins that championship, it's actually going to mean something. So 3 years later, just over 3 years later, I think Naomi's in a much better spot than Mercedes Mone. Take away all the championships and all the other bullshit that goes into it and the position that she's in. Naomi's career, I think, has benefited way more from this walkout. Just my opinion. You can be mad at me. It's your prerogative. I know some of you guys are going to get mad at the comments, but that's what it is. That's what this segment is here for. All right. Anyway, thanks so much. I'll see you guys. Bye.